Terraria is awesome, but after you've played it a few times, you might want something a little more interesting than a regular world. You've got special seeds, but there are only so many, and not all of them are that great. So, to fix that, I set out to make a few custom worlds for people to play. I've got 3 of them, handcrafted, completely unique, and available for download in the description. I'll also be hosting a multiplayer server for each of these worlds. Check out here for details on that. For now, let's get into what they are. For the first world, we start with an entire medium-sized world and put it in the cavern layer. That gives us an underground world filled with jagged rocks caves to make exploration less tedious, and with mining-related items lootable in chests, mining potions, mining armor, digging mole carts, stuff like that. Basically, this is a Vole People seed that has the surface explorable instead of just being solid blocks, and a bunch of stuff to make it easier to get around. But we don't stop there. Above that world, we take another medium world, flip it upside down, and use this mirror world as the underground and surface layers. Everything there is supported and fully lootable, and it has exclusive loot to make it worth exploring. And at the very top of the world, there's a thin surface layer to allow access to things that can only be done on the surface, like the moons, solar eclipses, certain fishing quests, stuff like that. The original idea here was just, how could I make the Vole People seed fun? Because it's not very good. You spawn in a world that's entirely underground, but that's it. You just remove the surface. You don't add very much. The answer I came up with was to keep the entire world underground, but to flip that extra world upside down on top of it. There is one small issue with this world, which unfortunately I can't fix. It's the length of a medium-sized world, but the height of a large world. That bugs out the map, because the map doesn't support unusual world sizes. You'll still be able to see everything that you explore, it just won't fit on the map neatly. Our second world takes the Drunk Seed. This has been in Terraria for a while, and it messes with a bunch of world gen. Beehives are huge, the dungeon is underground, you get both world evils, granite and marble biome generation is swapped. It's a lot of fun, and one of the best special seeds in the game. So what if we take that seed and just keep doing it? Do even more biome swaps. The desert and snow biome, instead of a giant lizard temple, you have a giant bee temple, and each of the beehives are miniature temples fully wired with traps. Both halves of the world are flipped horizontally, making a giant ocean at the center of the world and pushing the center of the world to the edges. Basically, we just take everything that Drunk does and do even more of it. Keep giving Terraria more and more drinks until it blacks out. It's a very straightforward seed. It's going to play very similarly to the game that you know, just with a lot of extra fun stuff thrown in. You do spawn near the edge of the world. That's because I didn't want to shove the player somewhere in the middle of the world in a dangerous biome, so just be aware of that. For the last world, I wanted to do a space-themed seed using the planetoids generation. I had made a custom world for multiplayer trying to do this before, but it was a bit rough around the edges. The idea here is to combine a bunch of these space-themed secret seeds, planetoids, beam me up, portal guns and chests, and make a more unique overhaul of the playthrough. We start with 2 small worlds placed back to back as a surface. It's not tall, but it's a long surface. Then, we set the height of the world to be a large world and populate the entire surface and space above it with planets. All sorts of different planets, crimson planets, corrupt planets, ice, jungle, meteorite, Halloween, mushroom, obsidian, hollow, just a huge amount of unique planets, many of them with themed treasure. There's tons of stuff to find up in space. The idea is to make it more exploration-based instead of mining-based, but still keeping a small underground layer where you can mine and do the normal underground things. We then link up a bunch of teleporters semi-randomly across the planet and the underground, put both portal guns and anti-gravity hooks in chests, and we have a full space-themed world. It's super fun navigating between the planets with the anti-gravity hook and the planetoid generation. There are a ton of secrets and cool planets to find. It's a very unique playthrough experience. So, if you want to play these worlds, there's a Google Drive folder linked in the description with all of them. Each one is available on every difficulty from Journey to Legendary mode, and the Legendary mode versions do come with the 4 worthy changes: lava pools around the world, red potions in chests, and locked sky islands. Pick the worlds you want, download it, and put it into your worlds folder. On Windows, you'll want to go to your documents folder, then open My Games, Terraria, Worlds, and put it in there. And that's all you have to do. It should show up in game. Also, I will be hosting a multiplayer server for each one of these worlds on these days. I won't be streaming it, but you can find the join information in my Discord server linked below. It's going to be a lot different from multiplayer worlds I've done in the past, but it should be a lot of fun. All of these worlds were made in T-Edit. It's how I've made the other custom worlds in the past, too. For the rest of this video, I am going to teach you everything that I know about T-Edit so that you can make something like this yourself, too. On the GitHub page linked in the description, go to Releases here, download the tedit zip file, unzip it, and run tedit.exe. Once you're in, a pop-up will load of your Terraria Worlds folder. Pick the world that you want to open. You might notice some worlds have yellow warning signs. That means the world doesn't have an available backup. You can edit it, but it's always a good idea to open your world in Terraria first, just in case any save file corruption happens when editing. Once you load a world, there's a lot going on. You have the world preview at the center of the screen, and as you zoom in, everything becomes more detailed. You can pan around with middle mouse click. On the left side of your screen, you have a ton of tools, and most of these you can just completely ignore. The most important ones are the cursor, selection, and paintbrush tools. Those let you select things to interact with and change the tiles in the world. Let's start with those. If you select brush, you get this blue box on your screen. You can change the size and shape of it here, but we're going to stick with a basic square. By default, you are painting dirt blocks with no walls. If you click on these drop downs, you can change the block type and wall type that you're using. If you only want to place blocks without changing the walls, you can click this box to disable placing walls and vice versa. Okay. That's great, but this just makes a mess of the world. If I want to turn these clouds into thin ice, it just deletes the island. It doesn't change what's there. It's not very helpful. What we want to use instead is the masking tool. These drop-downs let you change the tiles that are affected when you're painting. Edit empty means that any tile that has no block will be affected. Edit matching means that any tile with the block that you specify here will be changed. And edit not matching means that any tile except the one that you specify will get changed. So we set a mask, edit matching for cloud blocks, and I can change all of the clouds to ice. We can do the same thing for walls. Let's say we want to change the house into an ice house. We turn off block painting and do walls instead, set a mask for disk walls, and nothing happens. That's because we left the mask on for blocks. This threw me off a lot with this version of tedit. Masks stay on even if you disable painting for that tile, meaning that nothing you do will affect the world unless it meets the mask you have enabled. Here, it's checking for tiles that have both disk walls and cloud blocks and will only affect the world if both of those conditions are true. Moral of the story, disable the masks when you're done using them. Now, masking is nice when there are a lot of blocks you need to swap out, but on this island, we've got silver, rain cloud blocks, dirt, and it's a little inconvenient to find every one in the drop-down menu. Instead, we can use the fill tool. This will replace any blocks of the same type that are touching each other with the one that you select. If you touch an open space, it'll fill the open space, which can be good, or it can be a disaster, so be careful about that. You also have a few extra options here. You can change the way the blocks are hammered, you can put actuators on tiles, and you can actuate and disable them. That's how I made that world where the entire jungle was actuated. You can also paint tiles or give them echo coating. This will use the masks if they're turned on. So if we want to paint a mushroom biome pink, we can set a mask and replace all mushroom grass blocks with mushroom grass blocks, except now they'll be painted. If you want to paint something without changing what's there, turn off the walls and blocks, but keep paint on, and you'll just add a coat to whatever is under your brush. We can also place things other than tiles and walls using this menu here. We can do wires, and I would suggest clicking one of these two buttons. These cause the wire to follow your cursor until you click again, and you can right-click to cancel it. It makes it way easier to connect things, especially over long distances. You can do liquids. The fill tool is usually quite nice for this, although vines can throw it off sometimes. You can do minecarts. If you are doing minecarts, I would suggest that you don't use the cursor following tool like with the wires. Instead, you want to press shift after you place one to draw a line from your last placed tile. This will make a track that actually functions if it isn't perfectly straight. There's also a platform mode and a sprite mode that I'm not actually sure does anything. As a quick overview of the other tools here, the picker tool just selects the block and wall that are on a tile. This can be nice if you're not sure what you're dealing with. If you press the arrow key, you'll automatically switch to it, which can be faster than scrolling through the menus. The selection tool, you might guess, selects an area. When you have a selection, you will only affect things in that selected area, and you can copy and paste that selection somewhere else if you want to move it. The pencil is just a paintbrush that's a single tile. The hammer tool will smooth out surfaces. Special interest points allow you to change the location of the world spawn, dungeon, and where NPCs are. Keep in mind that these should be slightly above the surface to prevent NPCs from getting stuck in blocks when spawned. There's also the Sprite Placer, which I'll get into later, and the biome morph tool. Biome morph is a quick way to change one biome to another. However, It's very inconsistent and kind of confusing. If you try to turn the jungle into a desert, the jungle grass becomes moss, but if you turn it into a forest first, the entire thing becomes sand. If you try to corrupt it, the jungle grass just gets deleted and the mud becomes dirt. If you take the corruption itself, well, shadow orbs can become crimson hearts, crystal hearts, disco balls, crystal balls, or literally just nothing, depending on the biome. Altars can become adamantite forges, campfires, furnaces, or again, literally just nothing and get deleted. So yeah, I mean, it works technically for changing biomes, but I don't like using it, and I wouldn't really recommend it. Okay, so that's everything on the left. You've got a ton of tools for changing the blocks in the world. On the right side, things get a bit more complicated. Here, you can change the time of day and set different events like blood moons and rain. You can change the elevation of the surface and cavern layer. That's how I made that Vole People seed earlier with the upside down world above the cavern layer. You can change the difficulty here if you ever bite off more than you can chew and decide you want to lower the difficulty, or if you want to raise it. You can set the world to be in hard mode or go back to pre-hard mode if you don't want to be in hard mode. You can change the seeds that the world is considered to be, adjust the bosses that the game thinks have been killed, and a bunch of other miscellaneous stuff. Most of it is pretty self-explanatory. Underneath that, this tool lets you replace every block in the world with a different one or all of the blocks within your selection. It works like the mask earlier, but it looks a bit scarier. Basically, just select the block that you want changed under mask options and change this here to a checkmark. Select the tile that you want and hit replace all, or just hit replace selection if you only want a specific area, like if you wanted to replace all of the sand in the ocean but not every single desert in the world. This does also work for liquids. You can't mask liquids with the paintbrush, but you can using this tool. You could, for instance, unshimmer the Celebration Mark 10 and Drunk Seed combo to make it actually bearable to play, or turn all the lava in the underworld into honey. Be careful when doing this because one or two wrong selections can cause you to accidentally destroy your entire world. There's the undo button right here in case that ever happens. The next one is the chest editing menu. With the cursor tool, if you right-click something where items are stored, you'll have details show up here automatically. If you want to change something that's inside of a chest, you can do that here. Item, modifier, and quantity. Importantly, anytime you change a chest, you need to click this save button right here. If you don't, then none of what you do to the chest will be saved. This is one of the more useful tools. Even if you're not making a custom world, if you ever just want an item that's a little bit hard to get, you can just open up T-Edit and fill a chest full of it. And now we come to the Sprite Placer. Everything in the game that can be placed in the world and is not a block or tile will be found here. Chests, grasses, trees, pots, whatever. You can search for an item and you'll very quickly notice that there are just a ton of things here. It's not that complicated, there's just a lot of stuff. As a warning, pots, chests, altars, and evil orbs all have alternate non-functional versions. Be careful that you don't accidentally place rubble maker pots, trapped chests, replica altars, or replica orbs. If you search Crimson, for instance, you'll see this, but the actual item you want is called a demon heart internally. This is not what you want. The clipboard is very simple and versatile. You copy a selection, it shows up here, and then you can paste it. You could copy an entire other world and paste it into a new one, or just a build that you happen to like. If you press the export button, you can save the schematic as a file, which you can then load with the import button. This lets you save pieces of the world, and you can even send them to other players and have them open them with their own T-Edit. However, again, a word of warning, sometimes chest contents don't like being pasted. I don't know why, and it was very frustrating. There was a world I was playing on stream where every chest decided to just be empty and I had to restart the world and remake the whole thing. Occasionally, T-Edit decides to just delete what's inside of a chest when it's placed. Typically, this will happen when you're pasting something that's very big, like an entire world. Changing the things that get pasted here sometimes makes the chest contents not get pasted correctly. The undo tool also sometimes just deletes chest contents, which sucks. It's a bug new to this version of T-Edit. I hope it gets patched soon, but just as a warning, check your chests after pasting just to make sure the items are in there. If one chest has items, then all of the other ones will too. You can also flip the orientation of copied selections. This is how I made the Vole People and Drunk Squared seeds. It sounds really cool, But again, as with many things here, it's a bit buggy, particularly the sprites. Sprites don't get properly mirrored, so if you have a tree, well, all of the branches are going to be backwards, and the staircases and minecart rails as well. Upside down, well, barely anything is going to work. I put a lot of effort into flipping the branches back to their correct orientation by hand and supporting everything on Vole People. It's a really cool tool, but it's not going to work perfectly, and if you want to make a perfect flip, you're going to have to go through and pick out a lot of branches by hand to fix those trees. The next menu lets you add NPCs to your world and change their names. This is an open field, you can type in whatever you want, so you can rename your NPC to whatever you want, really. I will be honest, I don't know what this does, but the next one lets you edit the bestiary and then banner progress. This can be nice if you want to reset a world back to nothing after you've been in it for a bit. You've got a journey mode powers option, and these will work even if the world isn't in journey mode. Unfortunately, the spawn rates are not an option here. And the last two are there to search the world. You can select a tile, wall, liquid, sprite, or an item inside of a chest, and T-Edit will find them for you. This is great for whole world editing. For instance, when I was putting the anti-gravity hooks in chests, I just searched for every chest in the world, went through each one, and put a bunch of random hooks in them. Okay, and that's about everything you need to know to use T-Edit. You've got a few more options up here. You can change what's shown to you in the preview. It's nice to have the world border preview on so you can see what's actually available in-game. Also, another word of warning, having a half tile as the final block at the edge of the world will cause the game to crash when a player gets near it. And you've got a bunch of plugins. Most of these aren't honestly that useful. Shuffle block locations does exactly what it sounds like, either to your selection or the entire world. Cleanse just applies the biome change tool to everything. There's an image to pixel art converter, but I don't think you can actually close the window after you open it. You can give it an image, it'll pixelize it, and you can save a schematic to try to put it into the world, but it really doesn't work that well. There's randomize all blocks in the world, which is exactly what it sounds like. You can also limit it to your selection if you don't want to do the entire world. The last thing I want to talk about is the remove sprite, block, or wall plugin. You type in what you want gone, and it will scan the entire world, or just whatever you have selected, and remove it. This can be nice if you, for instance, swapped the desert and snow biome, like I did in Drunk Squared, but you don't want to have the snow biome filled with cactus, and you don't want to have to go through and delete every cactus by hand. So yeah, that's T-Edit in a nutshell. I've been using it for a while, and it's pretty nice overall. It's not perfect, but there's a lot of cool stuff you can do with it, and I've made a lot of fun worlds for multiplayer. Oh, also, save your worlds. Right here, save button. Press it a lot. That way, in case things end abruptly, you can always